Thank you for staying tuned to Fireworks. Today, my guest is Aisha Yesufu, rights activist and a strong voice in the SARS protests of 2020. Thank you for your time so far, Aisha Yesufu. Just before the break, you were
Thank you.
trying to explain to us Shegun's exact role in the SARS movement, how he would rather not be on the streets but help those with cases of police brutality. Now, if I would relate, that pattern amidst the NSAS movement to the position held strongly by one of the NSAS protesters that we don't have a leader. If I recall, the musician Falz, Larry Falano, said categorically that we don't have a leader. Now, do you think that that lack of representation of the youth amid the NSAS protests worked against the movement?
Well, the thing is that they didn't have the traditional kind of leadership, but every one of them was a leader. And you could see in their organization and in the way they carried out the movement. If I would say to you, the part that didn't have leadership was the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government did not show any form of leadership, but the protesters did. And why they did this, and I love the way they went about their protest, was the fact that they learned from all the other protests, from the Occupy Nigeria, and how people were hijacked it. Some people who came in as leaders hijacked it, from the fact that you have people that will be targeted and all of that. And they decided they were going to have this a unique kind of movement where there's no one person who is a leader, but they have team and they worked across the nation. And you could say right from the beginning, it didn't work against them. Let's not forget that brutality was unleashed on youth of Nigeria who came out peacefully to demonstrate and say and have peaceful protests that they were being killed, and then government ended up killing them. Today I saw a report whereby some bandits in Katsina State came to lay down their weapons, two of them in the government house, in the state house. So this is what happens in Nigeria. When you come out for peaceful protest, you are shot at, you are killed. When you come at the state and you kill people, you maim people, you are actually welcomed and you're celebrated. And that's a big problem. So for them, what did they do? They were negotiating, they were also protesting, they were multitasking. On the 9th of October, was that the 9th of October? On the 11th, no, rather, on the 11th of October, when the police said that they had disbanded SARS, and the IG of police brought out 5 things that it is, what it meant by this disbandment. What happened that same day? They brought out 5 for 5. What more kind of leadership do you want beyond that? On the 19th of October, they brought out implementation of the 5 for 5. They actually told, since the government wasn't showing leadership, they didn't know what to do beyond just saying that, oh, we've accepted it and sending in thugs and police to harass them. They gave the action the government needed to take, the action that needed to be taken immediately, the action that the short to mid-term actions that needed to be taken, and medium to long-term actions that needed to be taken. So there was always leadership. It didn't work against them. Let's not change history while we are still living it. Government
Rarely,
used thugs to attack them.
rarely. I ask again about this lack of central leadership. Did it create room for the NSAS movement to be infiltrated? I say this because I want to ask, based on allegations, now mark my words, allegations, that certain interests began to fund the movement, i.e., some groups, the feminists, who were giving account of funds being received for the promotion of the NSAS movement. Where did those funds come from? There are other allegations that certain interests from outside Nigeria were also beginning to fund the NSAS movement. Now, if there had been a central leadership, a single representation of the movement, would that have helped for a sort of unified or coordination of the movement, such that it would not have been infiltrated by those who did not particularly have the interest of a stabilized Nigeria at heart?
Bukola, let me repeat again. There was no infiltration of the NSAS movement. If we're going to have a conversation, let's do. If you keep insisting on your point, then there's no need for this conversation. You can as well tell the viewers what they need to hear from you. because I'm being interviewed here, and I've said to you, there's no infiltration. If you interview the person who is telling you there's infiltration, then you can continue to have that conversation. So let it be on record. And I hope this is not edited anywhere that Aisha Yesufu, I'm saying there was no infiltration. And going back to the issue of there were funds from Nigerians who were concerned and came together to donate money. It's called crowdfunding. And if you notice, most times today, if you go on Twitter right now, I think there are about, oh, you will find over 10 cases where people are begging for crowdfunding for health. So this is not the first time Nigeria have been doing it. Government failed to provide healthcare services, and then people cry for help, and then money is brought out. So when people also were being killed, and there was protest, there was need for there to be resources, Nigerians rallied together again and contributed that money. So that is where that came from. And Feminist Coalition is this organization that decided to put this the funds together, help out with the protests and everything. So I'm still saying to you, it's not the traditional leadership that you expect to have, but this is different. We are in a new generation where technology matters, where people don't have to be in the same room to get things being done, when they can deploy a lot of things. And you saw that organization. If there was no leadership, there wouldn't have been organization with the NSAS protest. You saw how they were able to took care of welfare, logistics, security. Police refused to even give them security. Police were watching while hoodlums were even directing the hoodlums on how to hit them, where to first of all take the cameras away and all of that. But at one time, hospitals were refusing to accept protesters who were injured. They had to look for, hospitals, and people rallied round. Like I said to you before, this is a protest for survivor. It's not even what it's still, the protests are still on, they're still ongoing. It's a protest for survivor, and people have felt the brutality of police. The thing is that Nigerians want to make all sorts of theories and whatever. But you know what I always say to Nigerians? Yesterday's victims were once survivors. Today's victims were yesterday's survivors. Tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. And let's also know that those who have been killed by SARS will not be killed again. They are already dead. The next to be killed are those of us who are alive. And the question I always ask is, who is next? Because the victim card is going around. It is looking for who to follow. And being a victim in Nigeria today is no longer a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So when people are looking for all this conspiracy theory to talk about, come on. There's no protest that I have been at that nobody had ever said that I've not heard that, oh, it's sponsored one way or it's or the other. That's the normal thing that many people say. But at the end of the day, they refuse to focus on the issue. The issue we are talking about here is police brutality, which is still going on right as we're speaking.
Um, there are reports that activists in the NSAS movement are being threatened. You have also said that they're calling for your arrest. Muslims particularly want you to be arrested because of your voice in the NSAS movement. Modupe Odele, a lawyer also who arranged legal defense for protesters, has had our international passport confiscated. Now, please elaborate more on that. What exactly is the nature of these threats, and who are the other activists who are having their lives threatened?
Well, there are quite a number of activists that, first of all, even beyond let me, before I start with the threatening threats to life, is the issue of bank accounts being blocked. And there are quite a, I'm not going to mention their names here. When they want to, they will, but there are. And if they want, I'll be comfortable for them to talk about, because this is their own personal issue. But on the distance, we have reports of accounts that had been blocked, even right from when the matches, about more than a week, about let's say 2 weeks ago now, some accounts were already blocked. Maybe by the time they see that hashtag, because of course, in terms of accountability and transparency, when monies were being transferred, they had to mark it what it was for, and some of them were flagged. One of the organizers here in Abuja, who was liaising with the Feminist Coalition in Lagos, her account was actually blocked. She even had to now use her own personal money from other accounts solve the problems that needed to be solved. Remember that there was a central place where this money was coming from, treating people who were sick, and logistics, and everyone, even though even people within the different states were also contributing. And that even reminds me, in the case of Mo, her passport, we all have seen that. It's been on the news. Her passport was confiscated by the government. She was supposed to travel out. And then there's a purported list that is out there that names of people that the government have put on no travel ban. And forgetting that some people, they travel a lot, and they put a list, that they have a list out there where for people they put on a ban. I hope my name is on that list, and I hope they have my surname spelled correctly. Then coming back to the threat on life, I will use myself. I've been threatened. They've been called for me to be killed, that I'm not a Muslim, I'm an infidel, I hate Islam, I'm a gay rights activist. And then ironically, of course, the gay rights the gay people say that I'm homophobic. But the thing about me that I love is the fact that, look, they finally realize what I have on my Twitter page, where my mom says, in my court, nobody wins. I don't have loyalty to anybody. I have loyalty to the truth. And I'm going to say it, whatever you think. I don't bow to emotional blackmail, neither do I bow to bullying. And for those who want to kill me, please feel free. I'm 46. I'm going to be 47 in December. You think every day I live my life to the fullest. Every day I speak the way I want to talk. Every day I call out injustice. Every day I call out tyranny. And there's no office in this country that will not look you in the eye and tell you the truth. That for me is what life is all about. For me, death will be when I'm unable to speak against injustice because I'm afraid to die. So, hey, it's either you get a bullet on your head, or you die lying down, or you get a disease and you die for that disease. I would rather die standing and on
Aisha,
my own
why would
terms
the
than for
Islamists
any of
call
this
you
nonsense.
a gay rights activist? Have you expressed sentiments in favor of the gay rights people in the past?
Oh, for me, everybody has their fundamental human rights, and everybody has a right to do what they want to do. My religion, it's haram for that, but that's my religion, that's my belief. For other people, it's not, and then they are welcome to it. It's their life. It's just the way I wear hijab. I always say to people, the right I have to wear hijab is the right another person has to wear mini or not wear anything at all. And so for me, I'm not bothered. Anybody's sexual preference is their personal business, just like mine too. It's my personal business, and it's nobody else's business. And I've always talked about the fact that, sometimes when we're talking about the North, I look at it and say, I was 10 years old when I first saw a same-sex marriage, and I saw it in Kano, and it was no big deal. Nobody bothered. But I think there's this hypocrisy where people are trying to hide their history and say that things didn't happen, that is from the West. And I've also said to the West, why do they think that because they have passed a law in their country, then it has to be passed everywhere else? For example, in Nigeria and most parts of Africa, polygamy is allowed. There are other places where polyandry is allowed, where a woman can marry more than one husband, and places where men can marry more than one wife. But when you come to the West, they don't allow it. It's still a crime in most of the Western countries. It's bigamy. But is anybody going down to tell them that they must enforce that? And I said, for me, it's all about let people be, let people live their lives. Like I said earlier, I was 10 years old when I first saw men marrying each other. They have their weddings, they do big. They call them Mdaudu and Nkwakule, that's lesbians in the North. And then I have seen all of this hypocrisy where they are coming out. Many people are coming out to say that, oh, they didn't know about homosexuality, as if it's the West that is trying to spoil them. Like, no, 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 it's always been part of the
Okay,
culture.
so
I
what,
grew up
what
in that culture, and
direction
so
is the
that's part of.
threat to your life coming from? Can you name names?
Uh,
And what
yeah,
forms are
of course.
these threats taking? And collectively, how are the NSAS activists who are being threatened, how are they handling it?
Well, for some, first of all, on the issue of naming names, one of the things I'm very bad at is I'm very poor with names. But there are an actress who, although she has deleted this thing, came out with one of the thread. Then there's another actor who did. And then there's somebody else who came and castigated me. I didn't even bother to listen to the end of the video that he did. something honorable, is it I can't remember his name, the one from Jigawa State who speaks English. I was saying one time the economy is doing like this, like this. I can't remember. I'm very poor with names anyway. He also had some very hard things to talk about, but I'm not bothered. They have their mouths. Unfortunately, it wasn't what I wanted to be, but I am now a public figure, and anybody that wants to criticize me, please feel free. As far as I'm concerned, insults and praises are people's opinion, and they have a right to it. In the case of other activists, there are quite a number, yes, who have gotten all of those threats. Some of them are quite young. They've never understood that the Nigerian government can be this brutal, and so they are fearful. But in spite of being fearful, they're also defiant. That no matter what, and that's where, I love the slogan that came out of this NSAS: we move. The way they even say it, especially these Abuja NSAS protesters, they call themselves coconut head. They are the real coconut head generation. They move, they keep going in spite. And when they say courage, it's not that you don't have fear, but in spite of the fear, you keep going on, and that's what a good number of them have been doing.
Now, the presupposition is that the NSAS protests is supposed to be a peaceful protest. And indeed, throughout the movement, it was peaceful. But are you aware that there are some accounts particularly on Twitter, who also promote the NSAS hashtag, but they subscribe to violence and have the NSAS main voices, i.e. you, i.e. The musician again, have you condemned that subscription to violence, that embrace of violence?
The fact, you talk about the proposition being that NSAS movement is peaceful. The fact is that NSAS movement is peaceful and is still peaceful. And the fact that you have different people with hashtags, come on, there are a lot of there are accounts that are paid by government. They call them trolls. And I'm saying this one: if NBC have any issue, this is Aisha Yesufu talking. It's not TVC that is talking. The greatest purveyor of fake news in Nigeria is the Nigerian government, and this is a statement Aisha Yesufu takes responsibility of. If there's any finding, come and meet me. And we have accounts that are they call them what's this name they call them on Twitter, that troll bots accounts that troll people, and they are under the pay of government, and they put out this fake news and misinformation. So those are maybe one you could do an investigative.
Would you like to mention some of the names of those accounts?
Honestly, I don't keep the names on my head. Like I told you earlier, I'm the kind of person that they'll finish insulting me in the morning, in the afternoon. I don't even remember I don't even remember what that name is, but there are quite a number of them. And if you come under my timeline, you will see quite a number of them that do that. It's one of the things that it's done around the world, where government are getting this account and doing all of that. But NSAS movement has never been about violence, and they have shown it. It's the government that has been about violence, and I wonder why Nigerians are not taking. Nigeria is such a funny country. We are in an abusive relationship where we rather lick the feet of our abusers rather than calling them out. The victims are the ones that we are now blaming rather than the perpetrator. The government is the one that unleashed violence on NSAS protesters. And I think Nigerian citizens should call out their government. They should have the guts to call out their government, look the government in the eye and say, you're supposed to protect us, because the primary responsibility of any government is the protection of lives and properties, and not to kill people with impunity and deny that. So it's not about NSAS protesters being violent. Take it back to the government, like I said earlier.
Say again that government is the one sponsoring those accounts that troll is an allegation that you don't have evidence to back up. You in fact say that you don't know the names of those accounts, you don't remember them. So let's leave it in the realm of allegation for clarity's sake. Now, what happened on the 20th of October 2020 has been amplified by some news media as Lekki Massacre. And DJ Switch, who is a key eyewitness of that event, has indeed come out to say that she never said that 78 people died, that she saw 15 bodies, but that their mistake was that they released the bodies to the army. Now, in your view, do you subscribe to the use of the word massacre, or was it a shooting that there was casualty?
Bukola, if either you or I were amongst the numbers that were killed, we wouldn't be having this conversation, would we? Would we? Bukola, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
So no, I need because there's no need for this conversation if I don't have an answer. If it was you or I that were killed on that day at Lekki toll gate, would we be having this conversation?
But thankfully, we're alive.
Would we be having this conversation? It's a yes or no.
Okay, no.
Fantastic. So when we are talking about the numbers, we should think that it's human beings like us that were killed. I see people who focus on the fact that, oh, it's just this. There is no just in a human being. A human being were at that place and they were killed. And what we should feel, and that's what empathy is all about, we should put ourselves in that position and think that we were the ones that were standing with the flag and we were singing the national anthem. And we believe the fact that because we were waving the flag, that the soldiers who had come, the same soldiers that most times we sit down and we fight for them. When their officers are denying them things, we come out. When they deny they've been killed, we come out to make demands for them. We say that the government should equip them. Those were the same soldiers who put bullets through our bodies and we watch blood gushing out of our bodies. I want us to have that mental picture and imagine that we were the one. Then we won't be having this conversation of whether, oh, DJ said 78, DJ said 50. We will be aghast at the fact that indeed people were killed. There was a massacre in Lekki. And I love the fact that you reiterate. So let NBC see the fact that you said that, oh, it was allegation. And I've said that every statement I made, it's my responsibility. NBC should come after Aisha Yesufu. I should have nothing to do with TVC. So it was a massacre that happened. And yet the government has denied it. The government is gaslighting it. First of all, they said there were no soldiers at Lekki. Then they came out to say that, oh, the Lagos State governor came out to say that under interview, right, with a journalist, comes to say that it was military that were there. The military now said that they came on the request from the state governor. Now, oh, they were there, but they actually shot blanks. You know why I don't believe the military? Because the military repeatedly lies. And this is Aisha Yesufu saying this. When soldiers are killed and people report that soldiers are killed, our military deny it. In 2014, Hedima Chimda was killed. His aircraft was brought down by Boko Haram and they beheaded his head and put it on social media. Our Nigerian government, the Nigerian military denied that he was one of them. Guess what? His father was a retired army military officer, and he died a broken-hearted man. So this is not the first time that the military is lying. When Chibok girls were abducted, first of all, government said that they were not abducted. Then the military came to say that they had rescued all but 8. It took the parents coming out to say, no, our children are still missing. So I'm used to the military lying. There
But
was
Aisha,
indeed a massacre.
have
And you see,
families
Bukola,
of
let me
those
land on this
killed?
one. Bukola, let me land on this one. There was a massacre, and using the word should not be our problem. What should be our problem is ensuring that there is justice. It's going out there and getting to the bottom of it so that tomorrow we will not become victims. Go ahead.
But if in proving that perhaps it was a massacre, have family members reached out to you, or have you reached out to family members? I say this because it's been hard for the press to tell the story, because a number of people that I have reached out to personally have refused to speak or have even been silent completely, not responding to messages that have been sent to them, requesting for them to speak to prove that indeed they lost persons at Lekki Tollgate on October the 20th. So do you have information to that effect?
So, of course, they will not speak to you because their lives are still being threatened, right? People are still being killed.
So,
You
you have
just found a
information that
report.
lives of
Hold on, let me
survivors, of
finish. Because
victims of
I
Lekki
allowed you to
shooting
I allowed you
are
to
being
finish. Bukola,
threatened?
let me finish. Bukola, I'm being threatened. So I said there are threats going on. A reporter just turned up that was killed. And what happened? this reporter is being there's reports that he was actually one of those that filmed some of the these recordings that came out. He's just being killed, so people are afraid. But you know what I want from you is the fact that you shouldn't be asking me these questions. You know, the other day I sat down and I said, you know, journalists are fond of asking citizens for answers and solutions and all of that. You should be asking the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, when last did you, all of you journalists, sat down with him to ask him these questions? You should ask him whether there's a massacre or not. You should ask him whether, why is the Nigerian police denying shooting people, and then later coming to say that they shot blanks. Bodies have been washed up from rivers. I think there's a river near that place. Some bodies have been washed up. Has that? What did the journalists do? Did they ask Buhari, who is the commander in chief of the armed forces, that what happened? Have the journalists asked Buratai this question? Have the journalists asked the IG of police? I think because instead of, there's no outrage from any of you, and I'm putting this squarely on the media now that is supposed to be the fourth realm. Where is your voice when these people are not talking to you? When was the last time you sat down with the president and asked him? We pay him salary. He's supposed to be answerable to the people, and you on our behalf are supposed to ask him questions. So Bukala, I will transfer this question. Take it to the president and ask him more about the massacre and the families and the bodies. When he gives you your answer, I will give you an answer.
I assure you, we've asked him by proxy, doing it this way. Now, since the protest turned orange in most parts of the country, by the way, you didn't tell us whether you have had 2, 3, 4 reports from members, family members who have lost persons at Lekki Tollgate. Just to confirm, have you received any such reports? Can you name, even if you don't name names because you want to protect their identity, can you tell us that indeed you have reached out to 1, 2, 3 persons?
I'm not going to name names, of course, but there are organizations that are piling this together. You know what? Because you're going to the international courts, and you're not going to go to the international courts without evidence. So I assure you, all of this are being put together. Even before the story broke out that there was bodies had been taken to morgues and all of that, those information were already there, and they're being put together, because it's not just about it ending here. It's about all of this going to the international courts. And of course, I tell you, yes, evidences are being put together.
Okay. Since the protest turned orange in some parts of the country, police personnel have refused to return to their duty posts. And indeed, particularly in Lagos, many workers feared to go out on the streets again because there was no security on the roads. Now, isn't this turning out to be that the police officers that were complaining about brutality against citizens have also become victims of the rot in the system?
Let me repeat again. The protest did not turn anyway, whether Ori or whatever. Some of us didn't go to day school. We went to night school. The protest was peaceful. The government decided to use soldiers and use police and transported trucks using their vehicles, which the records are out there in public, the videos are out there. The police haven't denied it. Brought them in and they unleashed mayhem, and these thugs went rogue on them. So please, let's keep it squarely at the feet of government. And I would also like to add the fact that the police were never at their duty post anyway. And the SARS is supposed to be special anti-robbery squad. But the members of SARS became the armed robber themselves. And let me explain to you what armed robbery is. Don't interrupt me, please. The armed robbery in the sense that they force people, they extort money from people. They force people to transfer money to their accounts. They use POS. And many people have come out to report to the police all of this, and the police never did anything. So that's armed robbery, where you have a gun being paid for by the state, and somebody is forced to transfer money to you. That's armed robbery. So in the first place, they were never there. Right. For what we should be asking is that, has the police gone rogue? Because it seems they have. They don't listen to the president. They don't listen to the IG of police. On the 9th, I think it was was it on the 9th? Yeah, on the 9th of October, I think it was, or the 8th, no, the 9th. I was in the IG's office with Dr. Obi Ezekwesili when she had written a letter when the first attack on NSAS protesters in Abuja happened. And she wrote immediately that afternoon. And she wasn't even feeling very fine, but she couldn't stay and not do anything while young Nigerians that had come out were being attacked. And we went to see the IG. And I remember him calling his commissioners and everything and telling them they need to provide protection for the police. But it wasn't listened to. So we need to be asking ourselves, who is in charge of the police? Because that's a dangerous thing that we have right now, where the insubordination, they will refuse to do anything. They're sitting back. It started with NSAS protesters. When talks were attacking NSAS protesters, they did nothing. So police is not a victim of anything. Police is actually the perpetrator. And we need to come and ask ourselves, the violence we saw, the palliative that we saw, why is nobody being facing the price of hiding palliatives from the poor? We see a lot of people, even people who were just doing their own business, they've been arrested. Why is nobody arresting those who stole what was meant to be given to the poor and hid it while people were dying of anger? We need to always focus on the perpetrator rather than on the victim.
Lastly, how much hope do you have in the new SWAT that is currently undergoing training in some parts of the country? And what is the future of the NSAS movement?
For me, I'm always a very hopeful person, and I know that if we get the right thing done, Nigeria is a great country. Whether in the police, in the military, wherever it is, even any agency, there are good people. It's just that unfortunately, the good people are always put at the back, and we always put the worst amongst us forward, which we also do during politics. So if there's sincerity of purpose, if there's competence, if there's accountability, if there's transparency, it will be an amazing team. But what needs to happen is that everything should be done based on merit. Hopefully, that's what they did, not based on nepotism, not based on connection, not based on who you know. And we will have a great police force. They have what it takes, but the only thing that is missing is that leadership to take them to that level that they need to be at. As for the NSAS protest, oh my goodness, for me, I say to them, I'm in awe. I mean, the youth of Nigeria has indeed shown us that all that they say, when they say Nigeria is not united, it's all a lie. Nigeria is a united country. We can come together. We can put aside our differences. Hey, even amongst families, we have differences. So talk more amongst in a nation. We can put those differences aside and focus on a singularity of purpose and organize and do amazing things. And they've done it. And where they're going to, they're already thinking about so many things. They're already making changes, and they have plans out there, and they're working on it. And for me, I'm such a proud Nigerian to see finally that the youth of Nigeria are ready to become active citizens in this country instead of being passive citizens. And like Dr. Obieze Kwesili has always asked for, they're ready now to occupy the offices of the citizen.
Absolutely. Aisha Yesufu, thank you very much for your time and thoughts on the program today. You have our best wishes in your quest for truth and justice, not just for those whose lives have been cut short amidst the NSAS movement, but also nationwide for Nigerian youths. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bukola, for having me. Thank you.
And that's it on this edition of the program Fireworks. Thank you for watching. We'll bring you another edition same time next week. Until then, I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Bye for now.